you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I was fairly sure when I looked at the list of speakers that we might have fairly comprehensively covered technology by now. So I deliberately wanted to focus on food, and to secondly tee up some of those conversations for the wider societal impacts of our business and how we operate it. So the brief was to look at the last 25 years and some of the things that we need to think about going forward. So let's start with a glimpse of the past. Tesco's been here in the Czech Republic for nearly 25 years, and I can actually remember coming here many years ago. And let's be honest, where retailing was, it's going to change much faster going forward for sure. But it's already changed quite a lot, actually. So, the idea of real choice of products was not really here. There were a lot of products, but there was not actual real choice for consumers. Empty shelves were a kind of daily reality. Availability and accessibility to food all year round was not really here. Queues were again, a fairly daily reality. Now, let's be honest, if you look at the market now, there are still challenges in the area of service in the market that we all face now. But consumers are definitely looking for more products, the right quality. And back in those days, I think it's fair to say that the quality was very low, the level of freshness was very low, and the availability of products was very poor. Of course, nowadays, customers can shop not only in big hypermarkets where you can get a much broader range of shopping, but the likes of Kaufland and Tesco compact hypermarkets provide a really convenient way of doing a full shop. Many customers still like to visit a store and do a full shop. And there, of course, are supermarkets and many, many convenient corner shops. And, of course, online is growing very strong from a very small base here at the moment. In the UK, Tesco is still the world's largest online food retailer. In the UK, our sales of food are about 10% online. Here in the Czech Republic, it's closer to 1 at the moment, but it's growing very, very fast as we speak. So some of the things I just pick out have changed quite dramatically. Quality. Customers will always want value for money, first and foremost in food retailing. You all know that. Having the right quality at the right price. Now, I've picked a couple of examples that are specific to me, because I travel a lot around Europe. It's difficult shopping fresh food. It's not so convenient for my lifestyle. So products like ham that have a slightly longer code life are good for my fridge. This Tuscan ham is the best ham I think we sell in the Tesco group. We now sell it in not only the 4 Central European markets that I work in, but also the UK business as well. It's a fantastic family-run business. We've operated with them for 20 years. They trust us, we trust them, and hopefully our customers trust that it's going to be a fantastic quality product when we provide it for them. It's only 69 crowns. It's not for everybody, but it's, I can assure you, any of you want to try it, it's an absolutely cracking ham. But I'm really trying to highlight global supply chains here. If you look back a couple of decades, you wouldn't have had the accessibility to fantastic products that you do now. The Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, screw cap, never going to have problems with corkage, very convenient for my fridge. It's a fantastic wine. Again, we have direct relationships, again, with the vineyards. And the supply chain is incredibly efficient relative to the others. So running slightly ahead of our friends with that line in some cases. So, just a couple of examples really where the global supply chains have really changed. Now, I want to come back to the things that have more relevance to more customers, because Finest is for some, but it's not for most. It's for people in this room maybe. But we know that the vast majority of our customers in any country, not just the Czech Republic, are looking for core value for money to feed the family. Okay? And the single biggest thing, the single biggest contribution that we can have to society as retailers is to provide access to high quality, fresh, affordable, healthy food. Fruit and veg. The availability of great quality fruit and veg has step changed in the last decades, and that's what's going to have the most impact on the most people in this world, is actually making it easier to eat a better diet. Now, if you look at what customers are really looking for, every customer who comes through the doors of Tesco is looking for a healthier lifestyle. Every customer. It means completely different thing to every one of those customers, and of course you can segment it and deal with it in different ways. But the reality is everybody wants to do something that is slightly healthier tomorrow than I did yesterday. Now, as I say, the single biggest thing we can do with our diets, and it doesn't matter which government you look at the advice for, which balanced plate, is to eat more fruit and veg and probably less meat. So us making global supply chains, local in season, topped off with global imports where the sun shines somewhere else, out of season, is probably the single biggest thing that we can have for our customers, but also for the population of the country. So just thinking a little bit more about sustainability, of course, the big themes of the future are going to be around how you make it more convenient to shop. But also, you've got to be a good neighbour. You've got to be a good neighbour for your customers. Your customers want to know that you are contributing to the society, not detracting from it. Our people want to work for a company that is doing something positive for society, not a drain, but actually increasingly, if you want to keep people loyal to your business, they want to do something that they feel good about. And in the labour markets that we all face, this is becoming an increasingly important thing. People are joining companies because they think they can make a difference. And therefore, it's really, really important to us, certainly, that we're playing a positive role in society. Now, I'm using a kind of an example. It's not a high-tech example, it's a potato. Okay? But I'm using the example because I think it demonstrates some of the things where you see progress, but you've got to see an awful lot more progress over the years to come. So this is an example. I was working with a couple of suppliers in the UK. It's a tri-party partnership between actually Branston, who are our biggest potato supplier in the UK, and Samworth Brothers, who are the biggest ready meal supplier in the UK. And effectively, what we learned when we looked into food waste, and I'll show you some information later, was that by getting closer to our suppliers' business, we could do things in a much better way that had not only benefits for them and for consumers, but had benefits for our business as well. So we started by back-to-backing contracts with growers. So growers had the confidence to grow for Tesco. And then we took the whole crop. So this is the graph shows the crop, smaller potatoes to bigger potatoes, some out of spec, some in spec. And what we did was we said that we would take every potato that was grown and we'd feed it into the different brands in our business. So whether it was the Tesco brand taking the core, the discount brand, or Perfectly Imperfect taking the misshapen ones. But also at the other end of the scale, we would take products into our prepared salads, or also send them to our ready meal supplier, Samworth, for mashing. So 400 tons a week of potatoes that wouldn't make a retail spec are now going to Samworth Brothers on a regular spec to go into our mashed ready meals. So it's just one example of where you can work in a different way with a supplier that makes their life an awful lot better, that provides great value for customers because they get discounted products that are high quality that they can trust, and also uses our resources in a much more optimal way, which is surely the kind of, the biggest impact we can have on sustainability. So I'm going to talk about food waste. I've been championing this in Tesco since 2012. We were keen to take leadership in the UK business, and we tried to take leadership in food waste in Central Europe as well. And the first thing we did was to think about how you understand where waste occurs in the supply chain. Now, the reason I talk about impacts on society with food is most of you will know food waste and food inequality is a shocking issue for society. You know, of the nearly 8 billion people who live on this planet, you know, 1 billion are classified as hungry and another billion having not sufficient nutrition to lead a normal life. So 2 billion don't have enough food, and then there's over 2 billion who are obese. So this issue of food inequality is a very big one for all of us in the room. Anybody who has any form of leadership in the food industry should be doing something about it. And if you look at food waste, roughly a third, it depends which country you're in, but roughly a third of the food that is grown is wasted in most of the European markets. And if you look at where that waste occurs, broadly speaking, the big chunks of it are in the supply chain and with consumers. And then, of course, retailers and wholesalers play an important part in the middle. And this is not to say that our role is less significant than on farm or in consumers' homes, because clearly we influence that as well. So our approach has been to understand the waste, to understand where it occurs, and then not only try to attack the waste in our own part of the value chain, but to think about what we do differently that will reduce waste for both our suppliers and growers, and also help consumers to reduce their waste. So, simple approach for retailers. You'll all understand this one. We all react best to a target, a bold ambition, measuring it, setting targets around it, and then most importantly, doing stuff about it. You know, in this kind of area, there is so much talk and not enough action, in reality, quick enough. So a lot of conversation, for instance, about what's the right measure. You know, when I met a food waste activist in 2012 in the UK, I said to him, what is the single most influential thing that we can do as a food retailer? And he said, share your data. Because if Tesco, you share your data, then everybody else is going to share their data, and then we'll move on as an industry. So he wanted it independently audited. So since 2013, we've been independently auditing our end-to-end food waste data and publishing it. And we're still the only business to be doing that in Central Europe. But I'd encourage all of you to join in and start to share data. It's a bit awkward at first, but actually it's a really great thing. And it enables us to be part of the story rather than sitting on the sidelines talking about it. So some of the progress so far in those three chunks. The middle chunk, most importantly, in our own business. Last year we reduced waste across Central Europe by nearly 30%. Clearly, economically a good thing for the business as well as socially a good thing. Took a lot of product out of the system, made it much easier to get fresh product to customers, which is what they're all looking for. And a big shift for Tesco was that when food waste was unavoidable in our current systems and processes, wherever possible, we would seek to give that to people who needed it. So establishing the relationships with the food banks, the food charities, and making sure that we've got technology solutions to link food waste when it occurs to food waste when people need it, or when the charities can pick it up. So we've got a food app that we launched in Ireland, rolled through the UK, and are now trialling here in Central Europe, which really just links demand and supply, which helps to deal with some of that food inequality that I was talking about. But I'm probably more proud of the work that we've done down the supply chains and also with consumers, because I think it has a really a much broader impact. And this is where I think the partnerships that we have with food businesses are really starting to make a difference. So I've just pictured some citrus products. It's a partnership we've had for, again, over 20 years with AMC Group. We have a virtual joint venture called AMT now, imaginatively named by me and them. Really what it does is it makes sure that they know that they've got our business. They develop varieties that are high yielding and high in quality, and they grow for Tesco. They grow for Tesco across Europe, and then we work on shortening supply chains so we get better quality products to customers in the Czech Republic. What that does is reduce waste and improve quality, and that's where we're starting to see some really significant changes. Sometimes it means we order product earlier, for instance, because actually if you understand the supply chain, that means that you can get the product faster to consumers. And then just one example at the consumer end, perfectly imperfect. So taking some of that crop that we wouldn't normally have taken, we've bagged it, we've put a brand on it, customers know what it is, they know they can trust it, but they get it at a discount. So coming back to fundamental value for money, works for customers, works for the supplier, works for us. So, the news for today that I wanted to share is, as well as our ambition for food waste, which clearly doesn't go away, so much more work for us to do, we also are very keen to extend that ambition into the world of packaging. Now, as you know, packaging is not a bad thing, it's not evil. It's necessary to protect product, transport product, and actually often reduce wastage. But really, there is a lot of packaging. There's too much unnecessary packaging, and as you all know, single-use plastics and the like is terrible for the environment. So one of the things that we're committing to today is that we're going to attack packaging in the same way that we have done food waste. What that actually means is that we're going to change the design of our products so that we take out unnecessary packaging in the first place. We're only going to use materials that are recyclable or compostable, and then we're going to work with partners in the chain to make sure that products can be recycled and that we create that closed loop so that the packaging that is needed to protect products is actually going through the whole system. So my last slide, I think it's been a long series of presentations, is just the commitments. Target, measure, act. You need to make some commitments that the outside world can hold you publicly accountable for. It helps the business to generate some momentum and activity around. We've got some bullish targets around food waste, fits in with the broader societal objective, but it's been a real source of passion and pride for our people. So if you imagine, we talked about technology making life easier for consumers, for sure, undoubtedly, and sure, time is of the essence and things are going to move faster and faster. Retail is a people business. So some of the stuff that you heard in the earlier session around emotions as well as rationality, retailing is a people business. We serve millions and millions of customers every day. In Central Europe, we have 60,000 Tesco colleagues serving those customers. In the group, we have 500,000 colleagues. So actually those colleagues feeling good about going to work, about doing the business that they do, about making the difference that they want to make is really, really important to us. So making commitments on food waste, on packaging, and really, really important, not just for kind of PR, but actually for making a difference in society and making a difference for your people. The last thing I would say when you look forward to the future, for sure there's going to be better data, and we're going to be sharing data across the supply chain much more readily than before. So my personal passion in the food industry is that historically you would have growers, suppliers, manufacturers, retailers, consumers, all operating in different silos. It's going to be much more seamless. It's going to be a much more connected world, and we're going to have to work together much better. Sharing data, working in trusted partnerships. So I think my kind of call to you is, share your data, and let's be open about working some partnerships that maybe we wouldn't have worked before, with suppliers, with retailers, with governments, trying to do something which is actually right for everybody. Thank you very much.